Tiffany Henyard in court today over illegal appointments she allegedly made for several positions inside the village, among them.
Mr. Lacey is absolutely not guilty of all 9 counts. I believe he's cooperating. And if you cooperate, you have to admit your guilt first.
All right, let's dive right in with a juicy story that's been swirling around in the headlines. Imagine a public official who not only holds down one powerful position, but actually runs 2 and seems to be doing everything possible to turn her influence into a personal piggy bank. Today, we're talking about Tiffany Henyard, better known as the self-appointed super mayor. This saga is packed with the kind of drama that feels almost scripted, but it's all real, or at least rumored to be. So grab your popcorn because things are about to get interesting.
For a year now, we've been reporting on questionable spending by a South suburban politician named Tiffany Henyard, but we only knew half the story.
Tiffany Henyard's situation is already unique. She's the mayor of Dolton, a town with around 20,000 people, but she's also the head honcho over at the Thornton Township Board of Supervisors, a role that puts her in charge of a far larger population. And here's the kicker: as the mayor of Dolton, she makes around $50,000 annually, but in her role at Thornton Township, she's pulling in nearly $250,000. Now, you'd think that kind of paycheck would mean she could take it easy, but no, Henyard has somehow found herself knee-deep in controversy after controversy. So what's the latest twist? Well, what can only be described as a wild miscalculation, Henyard herself kicked off an investigation into the use of credit cards for township expenses, thinking it might make her look like she's cleaning house. So the only problem? This move has not only shined a spotlight on her own spending habits, but it's also revealed a lot more about her conduct than she might have expected. We're talking thousands spent on luxury hotel stays, lavish events, and first-class flights. And trust us, that's just scratching the surface.
So that's one of the reasons I vote no when we go through our board packets. It's like, some of this stuff, it's like you don't know exactly what it's for, and then when you ask a question, there's no answer.
In an unforgettable moment, Henyard found herself backpedaling like crazy when her assistant, the very person she thought would cover her tracks, came forward to set the record straight. So the assistant dropped some major truth bombs about Henyard's extravagant tastes and how she allegedly used public funds to live large. We're talking about flights to far-flung destinations, hotel stays at places that most of us only dream about, and dining experiences that could rival any high rollers weekend getaway.
No, sir.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that?
No comment.
One of the most jaw-dropping revelations was the Taste of Thornton event. Here's the rundown. Henyard reportedly spent around $85,000 for a 30-minute set from Keith Wyatt and another $20,000 for a half-hour appearance by Jay Holiday. That's right, more than half of her township salary blown in a single night. And this was all funded by township credit cards, which trustees had explicitly not approved. Now, it's one thing to throw a party, it's another to do it with other people's money while they're none the wiser. But hey, Henyard's not one to let little details like permission get in the way.
We needed those officers to be on the street fighting crime. And instead, we have several officers that are riding around protecting the mayor.
So the assistant spills the beans, right? She starts off by saying she's more than willing to cooperate with any investigation, casually listing off all the expensive 5-star accommodations, first-class flights, and other over-the-top perks that she says were all for Henyard's benefit. And when she finally stops talking, you could practically hear a pin drop in the room. Henyard, probably realizing she's painted herself into a corner, tries to deflect by claiming that all these expenses were part of the official business. But let's be real, it doesn't take a genius to see that this defense has more holes than a block of Swiss cheese.
Deep debt, and that is the finding of an investigation of village finances and the spending habits of beleaguered Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
To make matters worse, Henyard apparently thought that by launching this investigation, she could pin everything on her assistant, Keith Freeman, and others around her. How, as they say, karma has a way of coming back around. Freeman, who was her number 2 for a long time, has been recently indicted for bankruptcy frauds. It looks like he might have turned on Henyard and is now cooperating with authority. With Freeman potentially singing like a canary, the whole charade of blaming him might have just collapsed.
Terminate his employment. I don't believe that is legally correct. That's just not the way municipalities operate, right?
And get this, Henyard tried to fire Freeman after she found out he might be throwing her under the bus. In Dolton, the trustees blocked his firing, but in Thornton Township, he's officially out. Now, Henyard is pushing for a forensic audit of Freeman's credit card use, presumably to build a case against him. She's probably hoping she can pin all her wild spending on his back, but the assistant wasn't having any of it. The assistant openly declared, right there in the meeting, that she would gladly answer questions about any purchase she made under Henyard's direction. She even talked about the luxury shirts, flyers, and promotional materials plastered with Henyard's face, all allegedly paid for by Thornton Township. Henyard's response, Deanie, of course, she went as far as to say that these expenses weren't her problem, claiming she didn't handle e-credit card transactions.
Sometimes we get invoices, but those invoices lead to more questions, and sometimes we don't get answers to those questions. And so it's not about clickbait, it's about just making sure the right thing is.
The assistant didn't hold back, adding that Henyard's trips were often planned with meticulous attention to the finest details, think chauffeur services, premium dining experiences, and even branded merchandise. According to the assistant, each trip was treated as a grand event, with Henyard reportedly insisting on only the best accommodations, which raised eyebrows among her colleagues, where she claimed that at one point, the supervisor's office was even decorated with pricey custom artwork and other unnecessary items, all allegedly funded by taxpayers. It was at this moment that murmurs started rippling through the room, as trustees and attendees alike began to grasp the full extent of the alleged extravagance.
Hey guys, this is Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard, the people's mayor and people's supervisor.
Now, as if this wasn't messy enough, there's a whole other subplot going on. Henyard has been linked to her former assistant Keith Freeman, and rumors about their so-called close working relationship have been circulating. Henyard even implied that the assistant and Freeman were entangled in some way. And let's be real, folks, this is the kind of soap opera twist that makes you wonder if they're running a government or a reality TV show. Henyard brought all of this up in an attempt to deflect from the financial misdeeds being discussed. She tried to paint the assistant as being part of a grand scheme with Freeman, but it only added fuel to the fire.
One way that the government always does it is to go and investigate people around her, and that's what they're doing here.
So then there's the spending on the credit cards themselves. Trustees are adamant that the expenditures were not greenlit by the board, and somehow they're finding charges left and right. One trustee even described it as a shell game, with Henyard seemingly trying to play three-card munt with taxpayer dollars. And the Taste of Thornton wasn't the only event to raise eyebrows. Henyard apparently thought it was perfectly fine to book expensive entertainment and luxury accommodations for events that weren't even approved by her colleagues.
No reason for anyone from a township to go to a mayor's conference. A mayor's conference is a mayor's conference for mayors.
The assistant, fully aware of the chaos she was stirring, seemed almost gleeful as she rattled off details. And as you'd expect, the audience was absolutely eating it up. By the time Henyard tried to get a word in, the crowd was practically booing her off the stage. So there was one point where she tried to justify her actions by saying, "We have a budget for travel. Everyone travels," but that just didn't cut it. Not when you've got residents looking at crumbling infrastructure and budget deficits while their so-called super mayors flying first class to who knows where on their dime.
I am about to address some things as the supervisor. There will be no comments, there will be anything. It will just be me addressing you guys to tell you what's going on.
Here's where it gets even more bizarre. Henyard's response to the accusations was to go after her assistant and claim that this was all some kind of personal vendetta. She suggested that the assistant was trying to bring her down and make her look bad. But the assistant's rebuttal was, let's just say, pretty compelling. She came prepared with all the receipts literally and pointed out that Henyard herself had set all of this up. And if Henyard thought she could dig her way out, well, she probably didn't expect the shovel to be so heavy.
Were you?
It's not paid by them.
Did you fly first class to Las Vegas?
Any other questions?
So what do the people of Thornton Township and Dolton think about all this? Well, the comment section on social media is blowing up. You've got people saying things like, why isn't she in prison yet? Others are calling out what they see as the absurdity of the whole situation. One commenter pointed out, this is DEI at its finest. No one's going to say it, but we wouldn't have this problem if there was some sort of merit to voting. And honestly, who can blame them for feeling that way? When you've got this much drama, it's hard not to question the whole system. As Henyard's situation becomes more tangled, it's worth noting that this isn't even the first time she's been under the microscope. Earlier this year, former Chicago Mayor Lord Lightfoot was hired to investigate her spending, but Henyard, in true super mayor fashion, vetoed the decision. Can you imagine? She's under investigation, and she vetoes the very investigation that's supposed to hold her accountable. So almost as if she thinks that by shutting down the inquiry, the rumors will just go away. But with an audience as captivated as this, it's safe to say that's not going to happen.
Who would make a one day purchase of over $40,000 to Amazon? And the main thing is, what is it?
And that brings us to Henyard's recent meetings, which have turned into spectacles in their own right. So at one point, Henyard brought in 2 criminal defense attorneys to a board meeting, sparking even more rumors. Trustees were reportedly confused about why she'd need such high-profile legal representation if she had nothing to hide. It's the kind of move that has people wondering what other shoes are going to drop in this ever-expanding scandal.
Very appreciative to receive the information today. We have the best mayor ever. I've been here since 1993.
As we wrap up this tale, One thing is clear, Tiffany Henyard's attempt to divert attention from her own behavior has only drawn more eyes to her actions. Whether it's the luxury trips, the unauthorized spending, or the alleged personal entanglements, this story has all the elements of a political thriller. And just when you think things couldn't get any wilder, Henyard seems to find new ways to dig herself deeper. So what do you think? Is Henyard just misunderstood? Or is she the textbook example of someone taking advantage of their position? And how long can she keep dodging these accusations before something finally sticks? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, keep your eyes peeled and stay curious.